So thank you for the introduction. Yeah, let's start about a little bit about myself. My name is Sander. Like she already mentioned, I have 4 daughters. I have been a web developer since 2003, and I started as a web developer. And then I came in contact with a web or a conversion optimization agency, and that's where I saw the correlation between website performance and conversion. And that's also the time when I started to be a web performance enthusiast. Outside of my work, I'm also a part-time muralist, and basically I paint murals. I don't have much time anymore because of the 4 daughters, but I try to do it sometimes. For the people that want to get to know more about website performance, this is my LinkedIn profile. I try to post tips on performance every day, hopefully every day. Most of the times I do it. And most tips that I publish over there are related to user experience. So performance with user experience. I work for a company that's called Iron Out, and yeah, we focus on a simple but powerful goal. We help businesses around the world increase the customer engagement, and we do that by making their websites faster. And why are we doing that? That's basically because the speed matters. And a fast website isn't just about performance. It's about keeping users engaged and happy, and try to let them stick longer on the website. So basically, when a website loads quickly and responds instantly, customers are likely to stay, interact, and convert into paying customers. We partner with businesses around the world. This is just a selection of the brands we work for, but most customers are coming from they come from a variety of industries, but most are in the sectors of e-commerce, telecom, and publishing. But now let's explore what we're going to talk about today. The topic of this talk is your website speed costing you conversions? And I think this is a really important question that every business should consider, because website speed is no longer just a technical detail. It's a key part of how well your business does online. And especially today, people expect that websites load quickly, and even studies show that people will leave if the website is really slow. There's even a study from Google that says that if your website takes longer than 3 seconds to load, more than half of the people will go away. And almost 80% of that will never come back again. So I think it's really important. I don't know if you are already familiar with website performance, so I have a quick question to get a sense of the room. Who of you is already familiar with the core web vitals from Google? So I see a few hands, so really good. And then another question, who is already measuring the core web vitals on the website? Some people? So, cool. Nice. Okay, let's dive in why the core web vitals are so important for the user experience. I think they are crucial because they measure the key elements that shape the user experience on your website. And Google developed these metrics to reflect how real users interact with your website. So by focusing on things like speed, responsiveness, and visual stability, the core web vitals helps us ensure a more smoother and a more engaging experience. So improving these metrics isn't just about the technical performance, it actually leads to happier users and ultimately better business results. So when you enhance these metrics and the user experience, you will drive more conversion and improve the bottom line. Let's take a quick moment to talk about why web performance is so crucial, and also the 3 core aspects that define a great user experience. So when we think about how users interact with the website, we can break their experience down into 3 major areas, and that's loading speed, responsiveness, and visual stability. So these three factors are critical for a seamless, enjoyable user experience, and they also directly impact how users engage with your website and whether they stick around to convert. So the loading speed measures how fast page content is visible to the users. And if a site takes too long to load, users will leave. And the responsiveness, that shows how quickly a page responds to user interactions. And finally, the visual stability, and that ensures that elements don't move unexpectedly, because this can cause frustration and misclicks. So now that we have looked at the three key aspects of website performance, the loading speed, responsiveness, and visual stability, let's dive into the core web vitals and how Google measures these key aspects. So Google created these three specific measurable metrics, and that helps us to quantify and improve the user experience. And the first one that they have, that's the largest contentful paint. And largest contentful paint basically measures the largest element that is being painted within the viewport. They also found out that this is the moment that people start interacting with the page. So they see enough content and they think that the website is almost done, and they start interacting with the page. Then we have interaction to next paint, and that's a metric that measures the responsiveness. So when somebody clicks, types on your website, so how long will it take until the user sees a visual response? I think we also saw it in the presentation of Mo this morning, that he clicked his clicker, but there was no visual update on the screen behind him. And that's noticeable for users. So that can be pretty annoying if that takes too long. And the last one, it's cumulative layout shift. Pretty hard to pronounce, but that measures the visual stability of the page. That can lead to misclicks or just annoying because people are reading stuff and then something is loaded in between, and then they get interrupted. That can be really annoying. Google also created some thresholds for all these metrics. That's what you see on the right top. So these metrics are really measurable and can be used to see how users are experiencing the performance of your website. And there are also two supporting metrics. These are not part of the core web vitals, but they are actually part of the web vitals itself. And that's a technical one, more the time to first byte. That basically measures the response time from a server. So when the computer or the user receives the first byte from the server. And we also have the first contentful paint. And this is also a quite interesting metric, because this is when users see that something is happening. So they see some logo or text on the screen appear, so that they know they are on the right page, and they actually will wait until further content will appear. Why so many metrics, you think? Yeah, that's basically because the loading of the page is a step-by-step process. And users experience it as a journey. So there are a couple of phases during that loading of the page that people would like to see. So they see, is it happening? They see something being painted on the screen. And then they see, is it useful? Am I at the right website? And then after that, is it usable? So can I use the website? And this all combined is the whole loading journey. So if you have a really fast beginning of the website, but the end is still slow, then the whole experience can still be slow. So that's why it is important to focus on multiple metrics instead of just on one metric. During the introduction, she already said, we work for a large British e-commerce company. It's called Frasers Group. We have been working with them for several years right now. And when we started over there, we implemented a more performance culture over there. And we initially focused on them with them to pass the core Web Vitals assessment. So if you have good scores for all these metrics that you just saw, then you will pass the core Web Vitals assessment, and basically Google then says you have a really nice user experience on the website, and you can even get an SEO ranking boost for that. So we first focused on getting the performance up to par, because it was really bad when we started. And then we managed to pass the core Web Vitals assessment. However, Google introduced a new metric last year, and that was the interaction to next page metric. And that's when we discovered we had some new performance issues that needed some immediate attention. Before the interaction to next page metric was part of the core Web Vitals, Google had another metric, and it only measured the first interaction. But they replaced that in March, and when they did that, we saw that there was an issue. So we passed all the other metrics. It was into the green. That was really good, except for the interaction to next page metric. So we needed to do some work to fix that. Quickly back to what interaction to next page measures. It measures how long it takes for your website to visually respond to a user interaction. So in simpler terms, it tracks the times when the user clicks, taps, or types something, and when they actually see a visual response from that. So for example, when a user clicks a button to submit a form or taps a link on their phone, IMP measures the delay between the interaction and when the page updates visually to show that the action was received. And this is critical because users don't expect only the fast loading times, but they also expect your site to respond quickly when they start to interacting with it. So even when the website loads really quickly, a slow response time during the interactions can frustrate the users. And IMP helps us measure and improve that part of the user experience. Why is this a good metric? This is actually a case from Google. Over 90% of the user's time is spent on the page after it has been loaded. So you can have a really good fast loading website. If IMP is still bad, then probably the experience during the whole journey of the user is still bad. So remember, if you are going to improve IMP, then you are focusing on the 90% of the time when users are interacting with your website, and not just only the loading part. This is where Content Square come in place. When Google introduced the new metric, we started creating dashboards in Content Square to get all the values for all the websites. And we started with 3 key websites from the Phrases group. And we gathered some data to see what the values were for the different page templates and for the whole website itself. And as you could see, the threshold for IMP needed to be below 200 milliseconds. And now the response times were around 600 milliseconds. So that was really noticeable for the users. Users are noticing delays above 150, 200 milliseconds, then it will be really noticeable when they start interacting with the page. So we had a big challenge. The other challenge that we had was, did it have an impact on the business? We didn't have the tools to measure it, but we had Content Square. So we had to look around and see if there were other use cases available that showed some relation with business metrics. And that's where we found a really nice use case from SpeedCurve. And SpeedCurve is a tool that helps you measure the performance. It's a real user monitoring tool what they use. And they had a use case where they created the correlation between the IMP metric, what you see on the horizontal line, that are the values for IMP. And on the vertical line, you see the amount of sessions, and on the right side, you see the conversion rate. And I draw a dotted line over there, and that's basically the sweet spot. So the conversion was the highest when IMP was around 100 milliseconds. And you can see there's a whole window between 50 milliseconds and 150 milliseconds where there is a really nice conversion rate. So then we knew, okay, cool, we have to look into this, and can we use Content Square for this? Another thing that we also got from that case is that we saw that IMP on mobile had a stronger correlation with business metrics than IMP on desktop. So people on mobile are more frustrated when delays are happening during the whole journey. And that gave us the question, do our users who experience a good IMP convert better? And that's where we used the impact quantification from Content Square. I don't know if you are familiar with the impact quantification, but you can correlate positive against negative ones. So we had all those different performance metrics, and for now we used the interaction to next paint. And Google gave us these thresholds, so we knew that people that have an IMP value of below 200 milliseconds are in the good threshold, and people that are above 200 milliseconds are in the needs improvement or even poor threshold. So we could use these numbers to make the comparison in the impact quantification. And then, of course, if you make a comparison, you also want to ask yourself the question, what happens if we are able to move 5% of the users that are in the negative segment to the good segment? And this is an example of how you can do that in the impact quantification. So at the top you can select the metrics, and basically we say over there, okay, users who experience less than 200 milliseconds on a specific page or landing page. We actually use the landing pages. We compare that with users who experience an IMP of more than 200 milliseconds on the landing page. And then you want to see what is the behavior of those users. So this was the outcome that we had from the impact quantifications. We saw that users with a good responsiveness or good IMP, they engage more with the search bar. We also saw that the users with good IMP, so they see more search results. So they saw more search results. And we also saw that the users that are in the needs improvement and poor IMP, they converted almost 9% less than people that are in the good IMP range. So this gives us basically a business case to do the improvements. So we started working with all the developers, and we went for a two-pronged strategy basically. And we focused on improving first-party and also third-party tags. Third-party tags are tags that you are using from other vendors, like analytics or tracking and other things that you want to include in your website to get some more insights. So what we did is we asked for access to the tag manager. And basically what we did there, we did an audit. I don't know if it relates with most of you, but it could be that tags are still in the tag manager that were being used by people that are no longer working at the company anymore. and they are just not removed. So we found out that almost 20% of the tags that were included in the tag manager weren't used anymore. So we removed all those redundant tags, and next to that we established a new workflow for adding new tags. So what we did is when somebody wants to add a new tag, we first do a performance assessment on that specific tag and see what impact it has on the performance of the website. That way we could prevent regression from taking place. And yeah, basically we don't want any tags that have a bad influence on the performance. And only by doing that, so removing those redundant tags, we saw that it almost improved by 150 milliseconds, only by cleaning up the tag manager. So that was a really nice improvement. That's where we started. Another thing that we did over there, we focused on optimized the elements that we directly control, and that's the first party. This is maybe somewhat too technical, but we did a lot of optimizations in the code basically. Animations that are being used on the website can have a big impact on performance. If you do animations wrong, it will ask a lot of processing power of the browser, and that can delay the responsiveness because the browser can only do one thing at a time. That's called single-threaded in a browser. So if the browser is busy with doing other tasks, it can't respond to a user interaction. So you want to clean up those tasks as much as possible, and that's what we did with CSS animations. We also cleaned up event handlers, and that's also a little bit technical, but basically if you place a tracking script on your website, it attaches a function to an event. So when you are starting to click on a link or start to scroll, it will probably send out an event to your tracking system. But that can also delay interactions. So we started to clean up those things by just delaying those events. So we first prioritized UI updates. We also reduced the amounts of products on the product listing page, and this one was a really important change. I think they had around 180 products on the product listing page. And what the browser needs to do when you're filtering those pages, the browser has to update all elements on that page again when people start filtering the page. So the browser has to draw each pixel again after you apply a filtering to it. So if you have like 180 elements, yeah, it takes much longer to redraw all those elements instead of 90 products. So these changes led to a really reduced the IMP value by a lot. So we were really happy that we could change these things. So after all these changes were placed online, published, we used Content Square again to see if we had changed any behavior of the users. And that's where we saw that the users engaged more with the search bar. So we saw more interactions with the search bar. So that was a really nice improvement. We also saw more clicks from the product listing page to the product detail page. So showing users were exploring products more deeply. And we also saw less tap recurrence. And that basically meant users weren't tapping multiple times out of frustration. And the tap recurrence, that's really a metric in Content Square that relates with IMP. So that was basically a signal for us for a more responsive and smoother experience. So, like I said, we did a lot of improvements. At that moment, we weren't yet on the target of 200 milliseconds, but we already improved IMP by a lot, by 36%, 38%, and 42% on the different websites. And yeah, that basically was some good results, and we were really happy by it. And of course, the website was more responsive, so the users were more happier. We also used Content Square again to see what was the business outcome of these changes. So they really had a real nice impact on the customer engagement and also on the conversions. And yeah, I don't know if you can see the numbers, but I think they were really great. Content Square helped us gather these insights and to actually see if we had some business improvements over there. And I think these numbers clearly show that improving the responsiveness of a website can really change the behavior of the users on your website, because you make the journey much more enjoyable for the users, and they eventually stay longer on your website and eventually convert better. So finally, I don't know, who was it from KPN? Eva this morning, she said, a good presentation has to start with a quote. I will end mine with a quote. It's basically make a journey enjoyable enough and nobody minds how long it lasts. This is from Rory Sutherland. And I think this is what user experience is all about. It's not just about how fast a website loads. It's about creating a journey that feels smooth, engaging and memorable. And when users enjoy the journey, even minor delays don't seem as frustrating. So as we work and optimize the performance, let's keep on the focus on making the journey enjoyable, because when users have a great experience, they stay with us and eventually convert, and they are all really happy. That was it.
All right, thank you, Sander. Do we have any questions in the audience for Sander? Yeah? Andrea's coming.
Thank you, first of all, for the very insightful presentation. I think we at e-commerce are always looking at how to improve the different metrics that Google has developed for us. If there is one or two that you would recommend starting first with, is it then the one that you now described, or is it maybe LCP or another one?
Good question. I think it also relates what kind of website it is. For e-commerce, we see a strong correlation with the loading metrics, like largest contentful paint, but also with the IMP. So I won't solely focus on one metric, but like I said at the beginning of the presentation, more about the journey. So if you're going to improve, do it for the loading and IMP, then you are most certain that you make the journey more enjoyable for the users. We haven't seen much correlation with the CLS metric yet, so that one I think is the least important one.
Okay, thanks.
We had one more question, yes.
So you mentioned that the better IMP also increased the usage of the search bar.
Yeah.
But were there any other elements as well that were using more or used more by users?
The menu. So there was also a delay when opening the menu. And there was especially a delay when people filled in the search within the search bar and then clearing the search. So that was also an issue. But we mostly saw it on the search bar because that was also a site-wide element. So that was also an element that was heavily used on the website.
And did you also, sorry, I'm not sure if I can...
No, go on.
Did you also analyze this per page group or only...
We have analyzed per page templates. So we use page templates like homepage, product listing page, product detail page, and the checkout. But this example only focused on, we used the product listing page as landing page. So this case mainly focused on the product listing pages.
Nice, very interesting. Thanks.
one question here in the front.
So maybe there you showed the work you do from your side. I'm just wonder, the day you come, you do the optimizations for our e-commerce company. How can we make sure that looking forward, we don't mess up everything that you have done? Because you maybe talked a little bit about processes, removing tags, unused code or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe related to that, to what extent the processes here maybe play an influence in the site speed in the development teams?
Yeah, you have to make a performance culture basically. So you have to make it part of their day-to-day job and just create some processes, test it a lot. So we use a lot of monitoring tools. So, and what we do basically there is we added some budgets and we call them performance budgets. I don't know if it's going too technical now, but basically we say if a certain metric crosses the budget for a certain times in a certain period, send out alerts. And then the team gets alerts, and then they can respond on those alerts. Or they call us again to help fix it, yeah.